One way to help your worlds feel like they're so much more alive and reactive for your players is to remember that nothing ever happens in a bubble. Hello everyone, welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire, with another quick tips for DMs episode today talking about how to make your worlds more immersive for your players. And as I mentioned at the start of the video, you have to remember that nothing ever happens in a bubble. What does that mean? Well, that means that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Or in the case with living beings, there are sometimes no reactions, there are sometimes meager, half-hearted reactions, or immense and terrible overreactions. But before we get into all of that, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now let's talk about how to measure and figure out what different reactions to player actions can be. Heck, you can even have reactions to NPC actions. That's the whole name of the game there, is to make the world feel like it's living, it's reactive, it's thriving, it's dying, it's growing, it's changing. All of these different things. And the easiest way to do it is to start figuring out how people and things are going to react to different events that take place. Now, one of the easiest places to start at is your classic introductory adventure. Raiding along the merchant caravan trails, raiding along the high road, goblins coming down to the mountains to raid and pillage and kidnap and loot. Any of these things can absolutely be a great starting point for you to figure that out, and they're all classic adventure points too. There's lots of different ways you can go about things, but people are going to have thoughts and opinions. They're going to have reactions to this. Some people may not want adventurers to go up into the mountains to root out the goblins and their camps, their forts. They may think, oh, well, what if they screw up? What if they die? They're likely to die. Everybody else that's gone up has died, and things have only gotten worse. We're better off just leaving out tribute. Some people will have that reaction. Others will insist that they just give the adventurers all the support they can in the hopes that maybe finally somebody will succeed and liberate them from that terror. And it doesn't have to be goblins, could be orcs, ogres, elves, dwarves, Duergar, drow, any number of terrifying malignant creatures just looking to wreak their havoc upon the world and take from others. Any problem that needs to be solved, there's going to be so many opinions about how to go about it. But once the players do go up there and they are successful, well, what happens from there? Well, the township is now free. The village no longer has to worry about this horrible thing that has been plaguing them for however many weeks, months, years even. So now they have a certain level of freedom, less worry, more economic prosperity, especially if it was merchant caravans being burned and looted, or if it were cattle being stolen, or outright farmers and their families being stolen from their homes, or crops and fields laid waste and left to rot. All of these things mean that things get a little bit easier for the village. There's going to be an uptick in activity. They're going to have more success. They're going to have a greater chance at surviving through the winters. They're going to grow and prosper. And that prosperity, although it may not be all the benefits may not be immediately recognizable, it's still going to have a profound effect. Now, say it's a location the adventurers decide that they're going to stay in. Well, what effect does that have? Well, now this community has some local heroes, local protectors, and word is going to spread a little bit. Merchant caravans, travelers, other people are going to make their way through the area. So, these local heroes their names are going to spread. They're going to become a little bit more renowned. Sure, they just cleared out some goblins, but you know what? Hell, that makes things safer for everybody. Not having to worry about drow or bandits, that's just good business all the way around there. So, these different caravans, well, they're going to be more likely to stay, because it's safer now, and there's local heroes hanging about that have proven their mettle, their worth. So, that's just going to make things that little bit more secure, and that security brings with it a certain level of prosperity. But there's something else that could happen too. These are local heroes. They could be part of the town guard. Help to train the town guard. So now the town is going to have a better level of protection, thus further increasing that security. And because the players have decided to stick around this area, they're still probably going to be adventurers, going off to solve different problems, investigate lost ancient ruins, figure out what these mysterious books and runes are, or they get caught up and tangled into some other plot. But when they return, they're going to bring that experience and that wealth that they gather with them. Now, leaving aside, things of the single-handed economic inflation disasters that players could really be if you really wanted to break down the quantities of gold, silver, gems, and jewels, and rare lost arts and priceless treasures could really have. I mean, that still is a huge boon to a local town, especially if the players do anything to invest in the local community. Any work, any finances that they contribute to helping the place grow is just going to be a massive jump in what's possible there. And by doing that, well, that's going to make the town even more prosperous, attract more people, attract more attention, but it's going to also attract other threats. Say this is a border town, or better yet, a town that doesn't really owe allegiance to anybody anywhere. Maybe it's in an unclaimed territory, or it's right smack dab in the middle of a contested border. A town that's got increased prosperity like that is going to be valuable, because those are citizens, they're productive, they're taxable, they are competent, reliable, and it's on the border, so securing it means securing and expanding the borders of whichever kingdom is lucky enough to get their hands on it. So the players could very easily become embroiled in larger and larger schemes such as Machiavellian scope, or they could be like the ancient city of Palmyra. They could forge their own independence and try to maintain a certain sense of separateness, leveraging the fact that both sides in whatever this conflict is that we're imagining here, both sides want access to it. It's on this important spot, so they're able to leverage the fact that they're secure, they're prosperous. Sure, they can't outfight one nation or the other, but they can still go, you're getting mighty hostile there. Be a shame if that were to continue and we could no longer do business because, well, we can't stand up to you, so we're definitely going to ask for help from the other guys, and that might just be enough to tip the scales in our favor and their favor too, or at the very least, make the conflict so costly and so bloody that even though you claim this place, it's ruined afterwards, and you've also annihilated a good chunk of the forces that you've put towards this matter. So all different kinds of things could be thrown into this here, and like I said, nothing happens in a bubble. Say they go on to wipe out an evil king, or their court. They're calling it a corrupt court. They basically cut off the head of another kingdom, evil or whatever the case may have been, or just two forces that ended up opposed and locked in combat, and at the end of the day, somebody lost, and now a kingdom is left leaderless. Well, that has magnitudes of order of different kinds of effect on just a massive scale, because it's not just the internal power grab that happens. Any surrounding neighboring kingdoms are going to start looking to take their piece of that particular pie, now that it's leaderless and uncoordinated and everybody inside is infighting. Even if somebody within the kingdom is able to avoid a succession crisis and is able to seize control and moves forward, they're still going to lose territory on the borders there. That kind of instability is just rife with so many adventuring opportunities, and also can help you to change the landscape. Because again, the more the players do things, they react, they clear out monsters, they fight bandits, they go on all of these different adventures. Even just retrieving lost treasures can have an incredible effect. Say something is just an incredibly important family heirloom for somebody. It's not just an expensive piece that they have, something that's worth its weight in gold and then some, but it might actually hold value and meaning to a whole entire society of people. Making that and that kind of cultural significance, that kind of legacy to it, can add an even greater value and prestige to it that's worth even more riches, or worth favors from those kinds of people that could bestow those sorts of riches. So there's lots of different ways you can do this to make your world so much more interesting, and it's just a matter of scope and thinking things through, because the examples that I gave before, they all assume that there's a net positive, a net good. The players clearing out the surrounding threats and hostilities and making an area safer and more prosperous, well, maybe some people retire from the town guard to become merchants or take up farming, or the town guard just kind of gets lax and lazy because, we can just pawn it off on these guys, why are we worried about it? That could also happen as well, and that, while that might sour relations for the players with those particular NPCs, it still is an interesting position or situation to throw at the players and see how they react. It's certainly not an unreasonable position, because most people don't want to face threats like that, put their lives on the line in that way, and here's this group of very capable people who don't have as much regard for their lives as everybody else, so why not? Why not do that? But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Let me know what kinds of interesting ways you've put forward for your players as a reaction to things that they've done to help get them more engaged and make the world feel like it's this living, breathing place. I'm absolutely happy to hear it and share ideas and exchange all of that and engage in discussion down below. And remember, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.